This may be harsh, but no one cares about your life as much as you think they do. You live in your own bubble where you create your own fantasies about the desirable version you want to become, where in reality you don't even have the actions to back up who you say you are. If you're saying of yourself, if you see yourself as such high value, if you see yourself in such a manner where you're like, oh, I'm gonna get there, I want to become that version, but in reality you're not doing anything in order to attain that version of yourself. And it's like a constant cycle where you feel shit about yourself because you're constantly yabbering and talking and overthinking. But in reality, what good does that do if you're not changing anything? If you're not impacting the people that's around you, if you're not impacting yourself, and if you're just staying in a position where you just talk, but you just don't do. So I want to talk about the fact that these overthinking strategies or these fantasies that you create in your head, they're in a sense meaningless. And instead of putting your energy towards that, you could be putting your energy and separating these thoughts from your actions. Just because you think like that for a day, or just because you're like, oh, like my thoughts are going crazy, like I'm overthinking about shit, does not mean that you have to change your behaviors. Like, I think in a sense we really, and I used to have this where I really let my feelings dictate what I did. Yeah, if I felt like shit, I'd eat like shit. If I was feeling tired, I would not do anything about it. I'd just be like, I'm gonna lay, I'm just gonna relax. But in a sense, that's wrong. Not in a sense, it is wrong, because then you just succumb to your feelings every single time. And you're more likely to act irrational, you're more likely to just be spontaneous and not make up your mind about situations, and just not know yourself, just not know what you actually want from the situation, what you actually want the outcome to be, how you want your life to play out, because you're constantly just living based on your feelings. And a lot of the times our feelings are wrong, and a lot of the times we don't understand this, because whether it's from childhood, about the little traumas that we don't even haven't even contemplated about ourselves and how that they impact us today. Like, if my parent had told me that I was not good enough when I was a kid, I'd probably be still thinking that I was not good enough in some shape or form. But at the same time, don't let that dictate your present today. Like, just because that happened in the past, I think it's important, but it's really hard. I know I'm saying this, it sounds easy, it's not. It's really hard to separate your perception of yourself versus how other people view you, and picking out what is a criticism I should take from them, what is the criticism I should ignore, like for example strangers telling you shit, and just really understanding yourself. That's hard. So one advice I would say is pick up the camera or just start verbalizing with yourself. Lay everything out on the table, like make it raw. Don't share it with other people, just for yourself, where you can really start analyzing yourself. And I do want to say that there's an extent where it's like, okay, you're understanding yourself, but what good does that do if it's just all in your head? What good does that do if you're not implementing it on actions, if you're not changing your actions, if you continue to scroll on social media mindlessly when you know that you have to go and be doing something? Like, what good does it do from overthinking? So it's good to understand yourself, it's good to educate yourself on yourself, but if you're not implementing any change, if you're not showing any change, what good does that do? Nothing. So when you see yourself going to a zone where you're like creating fantasies about the version you want to do, ask yourself the question, what am I doing in order to obtain that version of myself? What are my actions showing about myself that support that version of that self? And a lot of the times it comes down to habits. So your habits, I do believe this, that your habits are essentially you. Your habits, they build up, they compound. If you do positive shit, good shit, and I know that's like really subjective, but in general, if you do things that move you forward for a consistent time, even if it's like something small, over time you will get there. Over time they will compound and you will see progress. But if you eat like shit for one day, it's fine. But if you consistently eat shit and don't treat your nutrition seriously, then guess what? It's going to compound over to you, and then you're going to have health issues at a certain block all at once. These habits are essentially you. So I want to ask you, and I want to end it on this note, what habits are you doing that are living up to the version that you see yourself as?